All right, welcome to the fourth and final review of the evening. Up this time is The Takeover. The Takeover is a side scrolling beat 'em up inspired by the genre defining classic games of the 90s. Battle solo or alongside a friend in local co op while listening to awesome tunes from Little V. Millis, Richie Branson, James Ronald, and the industry legend Yuzo Koshiro. Um, right. So that is a pretty accurate description of what this game is. Um, it's a brawler, walk and brawl, button basher. There's a lot of names for this particular style of game that was very popular in the 80s and 90s. Um, and yeah, it's one of those indie homage titles that wears its principal influences very vividly. I guess that's the other theme of tonight's reviews. One being Metroidvanias, the others are obvious inspirations. Because if you're too young to connect the dots, this game features heavy influence from the likes of Final Fight and Streets of Rage, which are, two of the all-time classics in its genre. So, I suppose the question that beckons in regards to this title is, what does it bring to the table on its own? Well, I suppose the first thing that's going to be readily apparent is the neon. Dear God, this is one very neon looking game. Though, kudos to the developers for not making it eye-searing and having very good readability. This is something I've complained about in regards to Golden Age classics that put in way, way, way too much bright neon glow in their games and subsequently make it a visual mess. That could have easily been the case here, and to my mild shock, things are legible. You can see it's a very busy game, not just in terms of the neon, but in terms of all the detail, all the colors in general, and yet you can still tell your character at a glance. Not the easiest thing to do. Thankfully this game didn't do, or at least I don't think it did, what some of the classic games did. The head swap, the palette swap, body swap between your characters. So, you had the same body type but with a different head. That could get confusing, depending on the character you were using and circumstances. Anyway, putting visuals aside, this is mostly like, I won't sugarcoat it, like, it's a mostly pedestrian affair in terms of brawling. Like, you punch, you kick, you have your specials, you have your aerial attacks. Though this one's a bit more versatile than stuff in the 90s. Like, usually you were just given a jump kick and call it a day. Here you have a jump kick and a jumping fist. So, I'm not sure it matters all that much in terms of damage, But in terms of hitboxes, it does make a difference because of positioning. So they did take that into consideration. But yeah, it's like if you played one of these in the 90s, you've pretty much played this game outside of a few things that it does bring to the table on its own, chief of which is gunplay. Like, I think you just saw Petty institute the firing of the pistol there. Contrary to a lot of brawlers, not all of them, but a good chunk of them, you're not just fighting with your fists or, with like a 2x4 or, other assorted blunt object. You do get those in this game, as well as a katana blade. And they function really weird because it's all, like, downward hits. Like, it's very unnatural looking in terms of how, you would swing an actual sword or a lead pipe. But yeah, it's like your characters have decided to bring guns with them.
It's almost like they realize they're in the U.S.
Yeah. Mind you, ammo is fairly limited. I think, usually you'll max out at 20 bullets. Not all the time, but that was, like, the average I found, going through levels. But yeah, I can't really think of a lot of brawlers that would, you would get a gun as a special weapon, sure. Maybe an extra special weapon, but not as your, like, standard arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
You have to use the shoulder buttons to fire off your gun. First you have to hold down, like, the stance button, and then you will unleash your bullets.
Or, like, actually, if you do get, like, some sort of firearm, it's like a temporary power-up, you'll drop them run out of bullets.
So, and it did take me a while to figure that out because it's such a non-standard part of the genre.
Mm-hmm.
So, this game is doing new things. It's not 100% pure homage. The other is the bonus stages. That is another thing that you did see in like some of the later brawlers, like Final Fight, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time did this. But in order to break up the monotony of the brawler, you would get extra stages. And that is the case here, vehicle stages. Usually when you got vehicle stages, they were car-based affairs. You do get one of those here. And the other stage is a game that homages Afterburner Climax of all things.
Huh.
Yeah. It was a bit unexpected. Still, they were good refreshers. Didn't take away from the game, and yeah, this is absolutely a brawler where things can get monotonous. It is one of the longer brawlers I've played, and I think that is reflective in its progression system, because this is a game where is broken up into either 3 or 4 sections, depending on the level. 4 sections at first, and then, like, towards the end, it gets broken off into thirds. The individual segments get a lot longer as part of the difficulty curve. Now, mind you, if you do disengage from the playing of the game in the middle of, like, Stage 4, it will save your progress, but not your score. So, you will be starting at 0 there, if you care about score.
I was just about to ask, is there a reason to care about score?
Not really. There are leaderboards, but they're local only. So yeah, and that is another thing to mention. Probably the biggest detriment against this game is, perhaps understandably, the multiplayer is local only. I can understand why a developer would not want to institute netcode, especially in a genre like a brawler.
Well, and like we mentioned, remote play together is a thing. If if you're somewhere where that works well for you.
Yeah. But I would say if you're getting this for multiplayer, probably get the Switch version. If only because it's, just probably easier to have multiple Switch users play through a game like this.
With as many buttons as this use, this may not be like single Joy-Con usable. You'd still need two separate controllers.
Yeah, I'm just saying in general. But yeah, no, this is not a single Joy-Con affair. Yeah, it's if this were if this came out in the 90s, this would be probably among, if not the most complex brawlers ever seen.
This would have had to come out on the PlayStation. And unfortunately, by then, the brawler genre, it wasn't dead, but it wasn't anywhere near as popular as it was.
Yeah, there's some debate there, but yeah, this would be something on par with Capcom's Battle Circuit. One of their very late, maybe their last brawler ever, on a CPS. I forget if it's 2 or 3, but it's a very advanced 8-player affair. Something comparable to that.
Mm-hmm.
And, as far as how it all works together, surprisingly well. Yeah, I will say flat out, it's not Streets of Rage 4 levels of polish. But it is worth noting that this game was fully done by a small indie team or individual. I don't know how many people worked on the game, but we did talk to the Streets of Rage 4 people a good 5 years ago, but I don't think I'm trying to remember if it came out then or if it was later, but as it turns out, Sega was helping on Streets of Rage 4 directly. They had development staff on that game.
Development staff as well as input.
Uh-huh. Whereas this game is just a pure indie homage to that work.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it ain't a big surprise that it's not quite as polished as the thing that had a major publisher behind it, in some form. As it is, I have played much rougher affairs, like that game War Dogs we reviewed some time ago, that was originally built for mobile devices. Oof. This works fairly well. Honestly, the biggest problem I had with it is the same problem I have with, Streets of Rage 2. In that, throwing and grabbing a character is just way too easy.
Yeah, the auto grapple is kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Oh, right. And the other big thing this thing brings to the table is the power-up, is the rage meter. And the, you punch enough faces, you're able to call in a missile strike.
You do in real life.
Yeah. Like I said, this game is doing new things. It's just, it's not immediately apparent. Which is definitely more than I can say for some other indie homages that we have covered on the program. Anyway, it's like, all in all, it's a very solid game. Maybe not tippy top, but you won't go wrong if you buy this for the appropriate price. And that gets to that particular task. So the normal price on this game is a bit eye-watering, as it clocks in at $20. If it had online multiplayer, I'd say it'd be worth $20. But since it doesn't have, actual online multiplayer, and I don't consider remote play together to be that.
Yeah. Like, it is cool that that's, like, basically free, but at the same time, we've had problems getting it to work.
Yeah. It's just, one of the most, one of the best features, arguably the best feature of brawlers, is kind of limited in the market of today here.
Yeah, is either talking shit on your homie when they get their face kicked in, or helping them beat the fuck out of somebody.
Yeah, especially on the PC. Like, yeah, you can do local play on a computer, but how often does that usually happen?
Have it connected to the big screen TV.
Yeah. It's like, I do have to take that into consideration. The console versions, probably, a bit more justified in the price, since you can get local multiplayer working a lot easier on the PlayStation 4 or a Nintendo Switch. In that, right. People are more willing to play on a PlayStation than a PC that way. As it is, once again, you can find this game on deep sale these days, since it's a few years old at this point. Like, right now, it's going for $3 during the Steam summer sale that's going on as we're recording. Now, obviously, right. For $3, this is more than worth buying. But
yeah,
I'd
buy
say,
a couple copies at that price.
Yeah. But, evaluating at its normal price, $20 is a bit rich for what's on offer here. And yeah, I think that's about all I got on the takeover. Anything more from you guys?
With all the loading breaks in this, it almost feels like this was a 360 era game. But that's just me, and I was recently on a bit of a 360 era kick, so it was one of those, oh, I feel at home here.
Firing up some Castle Crashers, then.
Actually, I don't have Castle Crashers on my 360. I was playing Dishwasher.
Anyway, so I think that'll about do it for not just this review, but this review session. So, coming up on the week ahead, if I can get to the proper place in the listings here. Fire. Here we go. Coming up on Wednesday, July 9th, we'll be welcoming Samantha Cole and Kosta Leakoff. I probably mangled that, but I also don't know how to pronounce that name. Of Spoonful of Wonder. We will be talking about their first title, Copycat, a poignant narrative-driven game about rejection, belonging, and the meaning of home. Also, you get to play as a kitty cat.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Who controls a bit strange. Not gonna lie. I played this for about a half an hour today just to get, we were provided some codes of the game, so just see what this is all about. Yeah, it's definitely one of those, if I have to generalize, a narrative heavy, almost walking simulator experience. But more on that on Wednesday. And indeed, we do have a new episode of MSP happening that day as well. Coming up on Friday, July 11th, our first daylight interview show of the season. We'll be welcoming Alexander Jovanovic of Alkonost team. Yeah, once again, that's a lot of unfamiliar syllables for me. But we'll be talking about their first game, Code Alkonost, a survival adventure game inspired by Slavic mythology and the awakening of evil. Code Alkonost is a first-person dark fantasy where Slavic myths come alive, explore a haunted world, face spirits of the underworld, and meet creatures like Baba Yaga and Leshy. I'll admit, I find Baba Yaga less intimidating because her home is, a giant chicken.
Well,
Experience.
partly.
Is everybody still here?
Adam, did something happen?
I think the Baba Yaga might have taken Adam.
Oh no.
Hello?
There we
Hi.
go.
Yeah. As I was saying, look forward to this on Friday. And until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.